This is the game against West Ham. This is courtesy of the analyst. Now, all roads lead to Florian Wirtz, pretty much. I mean, every player who's near him has a line set up with him. But the only two that don't are the centre-halves, Josh. That is someone who has been given the keys to the castle.
Yeah, that's that term I've used, funnily enough, given the keys. That at his best, that's what I expected, to be honest. That's when Liverpool signed him, I thought moving forward, Florian's, everything would kind of run through him, and he wouldn't necessarily get the shot. He wouldn't even necessarily get the assist, but everything good would run through him. And this is, for me, the best example of what that looks like. People have been arguing, saying like, he played better against Atletico Madrid. He played better against Frankfurt. Maybe he did.
Yeah, good games.
I wouldn't even argue that though. But I think he gets 2 assists against Frankfurt. So I wouldn't even argue that. But for me, my point is more like, this is the closest we've seen, in my opinion, to him. This is most what he looks like. He's that. What you saw against West Ham is the closest to the real Florian Wirtz. Even another game he scores a hat-trick. Well, technically, yeah, he's played better in that game, maybe. But he's not going to score a hat-trick every week. This was the kind of game I felt where he should score, to be fair to him. He could have got an assist with some 1 or 2 of the chances that he sets up. And crucially, though, he runs the game for you.
That's it. It's the template.
Yeah, and he's only 22 doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
So, he's going to be really, really good if you can unlock him. And this was a way of unlocking him. This gives me a lot of hope, actually, what we saw for the future. Yeah,
absolutely. If you could just bring it back up for us, please, Aaron, because one minor point. There's only one line into Alexander Isak, and it was Florian Wirtz. And I just think that's what you're aiming for now, every week. That guy there is getting passes from your fullbacks, from your other 2 wingers, from your 2 centre midfielders, and you give it to him and he makes things happen.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up the Nottingham Forest one next, please, because keep your eye on that. That's what it's been.
Yeah.
And it's just not as pretty.
No.
Is it? No. It's not as perfectly spaced. But if you could flick back and just keep your eye on the defenders, deeper line, more stability.
Yeah.
2 proper holding mids, and could you flip it back again? Look how high they were against Forest. Now, admittedly, we were 3-0 down, changes the average positions, yada. But like, for a start, no one's passing the ball to Isak in this scenario. Of course, it's minimum 5 passes. But it's quite, if you just quickly go between the 2, it's such a bloody difference, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
I thought it was a really good way of highlighting how different it was.
Yeah, but I think one of the things we touched on in the summer was how Florian Wirtz is he's a really ball dominant player. He gets on the ball a lot, lots of touches, and I remember getting up a few visits in the summer actually illustrating how often he gets on the ball compared to your typical forward, compared to your typical final third player, and it is a lot. So if you've got a player like that and you deploy them as your number 10, I just think in defence of Isak, Isak almost doesn't have to bother, for the most part at least, because you've got don't get in Wirtz's way, in a way.
You don't want him doing this.
No, you don't.
You want him doing that and giving space to Wirtz, don't you?
Yeah,
that's ultimately it.
Isak generally will be really good at occupying centre-halves. He's occupied the best in the league in Gabriel and Saliba. They've had nightmares about him. So if he keeps doing that, if he stays high, stays on the shoulder, it kind of prevents them from stepping in. And if they're not stepping in, and maybe you've got McAllister and Gravenberg or something, sitting on the ball and enticing them and that, and then these start creeping forward, then Wirtz has all of this. And that's where he's best. So getting him lots of touches, getting him on the ball, getting him receiving, as he's on the move, sort of thing. Like I mentioned on my podcast, I looked at his progressive passing numbers, and he received 10 progressive passes in this game. That's the first time all season in any game that he's hit double figures in that department. So it just shows that he was like a progressive
receiver.
Yeah, like he was like an avenue for you know, what's the word, like a means of getting into the final third for the team. You know, you want to get into the final third, obviously, no matter where you are, no matter where you are on the pitch. And he was like a reference point, is the word I'm using.
Yeah.
It was like a reference point for the team, as in, how do we climb the pitch here? Where's flow? And that's the easiest way you do it. And it worked really well, and I hope it wasn't just because West Ham were really bad.
Well, hopefully not. And it was a proper number 10 role for Florian, wasn't it? I mean, you can tell by where he's picked where he's played his passes from. If we can bring that graphic up for us, please, Aaron, because
I'm a fan of this one.
It's everywhere, innit, mate?
Yeah.
It's absolutely everywhere.
One term I keep using for him is that he's a swimmer. And that is what a swimmer looks like, where he hasn't really got a designated spot. We know he's got a little bit of a bias towards the left-hand side of the pitch. I think you can see that a little bit. But for the most part, I've seen a lot of people pointing out, like, you know, you need to play him, and I've seen people pointing out that he runs too much, and he's got no respect for positional play. I've seen people saying he should be deployed on the flanks. But again, going back to what I said before, the real Florian Wirtz plays like that. That's exactly what a performance looks like for the real Florian Wirtz, where he's all over the place, tons of touches, lots of freedom. You know, you're allowing him to interpret the game as he sees fit, because he's got that, you know, he's a step ahead in his mind. And
I think that, you know, you can tell there, I think it was 42 of 45 passes.
Yeah, it was
completed.
Yeah. That was the highest of any of his teammates as well. He posted 93 pass completion, 93%, and that was higher than like Van Dijk as a centre half.
Which is insane for that area of the field, isn't it?
That's what I mean, yeah. It's not...
85's good there.
Yeah, it's not the most insightful statistic, don't get me wrong, but if your number 10 is keeping the ball to that extent, he's not just a creator. He's more of like a glue guy, really. He's more of like, you know, he's making the ball stick high up. And that's really unique. That's really valuable.
So what's next for Wirtz in this? Is it just we're hoping to see him in exactly the same position again and do it again? You know, obviously we're going to want goals, we're going to want assists and stuff. But you know, if you can put a performance in like that, it'll quieten everything else, really.
Yeah, I have two takes on the whole Wirtz thing as to why he played well in this game. I think number one, West Ham were just bad, yeah. They were really bad. And I don't just mean bad as in they played shit. I mean as in like tactically. Like for example, they allowed Liverpool to skip the whole build-up phase. They just didn't press us at all. So, you know, with Gomez there potentially, we've seen Kerkers panic a little bit with the build-up. We've seen people ask for like a metronome of a number 6. We've seen people miss Trent. We've seen people point out Kanate's fragility on the ball. That is all because we haven't been able to escape our own half. In this game, the game started up here, so that immediately gives you more of a foothold over things. And then because of the defensive stability that I touched on, you know, locking down the right hand side, Liverpool actually had like a foothold in the game and control, and everything looked functional. It worked. That then gives Wirtz a platform to do his thing. You mentioned Burnley before. I thought he played well in the Burnley game as well, although he comes off late. So my take on it is, for Wirtz to play, for Wirtz to look his best, you need to dominate the ball, and he needs to be, I mean, this is a bit of an obvious one I suppose, but he needs to be operating in a functional system. Some players don't necessarily, you know, there's been players over the years, I can't think of some now, that have, even like someone like Bruno, even when you're bad, Bruno will still deliver. He doesn't really need that. I think Wirtz does a bit more. So if you want to focus on maximising him, dominate the ball and make sure everything around him works, and you should be good.
That was a clip from the deep dive. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.